It's still very much not car season here in Indiana. It's still very cold, below freezing, some snow out still. So what do you do in this time where you can't really drive around and do stuff? Obviously, I've decided to work on the Camaro outside of the Camaro with the body work to be done and getting some seats done. But what else do you do with your time? Well, what more do car guys do than do side projects? So the Firebird is not my Firebird, it's my ex-wife's Firebird, but not everybody has a horrible relationship with their ex. No one really wants to hear about that or care.
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here! See, nobody cares.
Because this is a car channel, and this isn't directly the 2JZ28 related, but I know a lot of people have asked like about the formula in the background. So it's a naturally aspirated LS1 with heads, cam, intake, full exhaust, and a tune. It made 440 at the wheels back in its prime, but the engine has gotten kind of tired. It's got about 136,000 miles of not so friendly miles with some hard abuse by myself and my ex. But these cars aren't meant to be driven nicely. So it's time for a rebuild. Sean has been nice enough to help with pulling the motor out, which is being remachined at this time. It's just going to get a fresh new rebuild. And then I'm going to put a different cam in it. It had an MS3 cam, which is fairly aggressive, but wasn't really the best driver for a cam. So I got something a little bit more mid-range friendly from Cam Motion, but it's cut on a 110 lobe separation, which those not familiar with cams, it just makes it so it's going to be a bit more choppy at idle, which is what she wanted, which is pretty cool. It'll sound meaner and give it a little bit more drivability, and then just be freshly rebuilt and put back together. Also, really helps having a lift for all this work. Sean made a quick work of getting everything out and everything dismantled that he could off the short block to be put in. The transmission was rebuilt not too long ago by a friend of mine. So it's got all Dodge Viper internals, so it's good to go for the strength. The rear had actually been the factory 10 bolt, which is still hanging on strong in there because it's not really a drag setup and the tires aren't bitey. It's been hanging on pretty good. I'll probably end up selling that. And this, as some may recognize, is my old 12 bolt rear end, which is going to go in there. And so it's got the factory 342 gears in it now. That has the 411s, which is going to be, I think, a lot more friendly too to drive around and a lot more sporty. Just a naturally aspirated setup. It still should make about the same horsepower, about mid 400s at the tire, but should be a really fun car to drive around and go have fun with and still be reliable. The suspension is a bit different than the Camaros. The suspension is lowered a little bit more than the Camaro on some stiffer springs and some stiffer shocks, which handle, believe it or not, a little bit better than the Camaro as far as taking corners at higher speeds and stuff. Now, because it doesn't give as much, it does have some traction issues, which helps with the rear end, so that's been a good thing. But it's a good driver. It should be fun. So I'll keep everybody up to date on a little bit of the side project of how it's going and putting things back together. I'm not going to turn the channel around from its roots of the 2JZ28 at all, but I know people who watch this are generally car people. In general, they like seeing performance stuff oriented and maybe just F-body related as well. If you're 2JZ specific only interested, then you may want to shun yourself from these. And you'll notice in the title that this is the side project episode, and it's not a direct episode with the 2J. So if you want to just keep on the episodes, those will be 2JZ related. But anyway, I thought I would share progress of the side project, and we'll see how it turns out. It should be kind of neat. Should be a fun driver for my ex. Should be all set up real nice, and if she's nice enough to let us, we'll take her for a spin. Once it's done, it's going to have to be retuned. I probably won't get it dyno tuned. There's a friend of mine that can tune the car, just a street tune. It's not going to really make too much power, so the numbers associated with the dyno tune aren't necessarily important as much as a good driving, healthy tune on the car itself. Let's see, one other thing that it's going to get upgraded is it's a 98. So the 98, for those that are familiar with the late 4th gen F bodies, was the first year of the LS1, and the PCM was a little bit more difficult to tune on. So the tune's never been super solid. I mean, it's been safe and everything, but with the cam and stuff, it was just hard to idle. So to make it a little bit more tunable, I'm upgrading to an 02 LS1 PCM to make the tuning go a little bit simpler. Other than that, it's just going back together with a freshly built motor, good transmission, and then a solid rear end there. So should be all good to go. It's kind of a rare car. The formulas in general are rare, and then this is a true WS6 formula, which is even more rare. I think in 98 there were less than 200 built. So with the value of these things going up, it's worth some money. I don't think it's ever really going to be necessarily for sale. That's up to her. But at the same time, it's a pretty neat car that you just don't see that much of. And as time goes by with my Camaro and the Firebird, a lot of this stuff, you just don't see them as clean as I have kept them and she's kept them. So it's just kind of neat doing the F-body thing. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. And I will keep everybody up to date on the side project as it progresses. The engine is being machined as we speak, and probably in the next month that should be done. I'm picking up more parts for the motor in a couple of days from a local friend, so it will be going, and hopefully half of my barn won't be dedicated to this project. When I do get the Camaro back, I'll have a spot for it. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everybody later.